Hello and welcome to the channel and to the draft recap of my first ever Switch-based draft. Now I've become fairly experienced when it comes to Showdown-based drafts. I've been in at least, I think, 7 or 8 different leagues, each with, multiple seasons. I've made playoffs once. I've not really snatched any crowns yet, but, I'm on my way. But the allure of physical play, like on the console, on the Switch, is something that I've not kind of felt for a while. Mostly because of that dreaded 20-minute timer. With all the animations, if they kept the Gen 7 chess timer, then everyone would be happy. That being said, I'm itching for some of that classic play with the in-game music, waiting for the HP bar to go down rather than seeing the percentage go straight down. With that in mind, the team I've drafted in the post-draft, and I'll get more to that in a second, will reflect a faster play style that results in hopefully more satisfying wins for me, and hopefully no satisfying losses, but I'd still rather lose to the team than to the timer. It's always more entertaining to watch as well. Now, I did draft in post because I was lucky enough to replace a coach that had to pull out, and the host gave me their full blessing to rebuild the entire team from what was left over in the tiers, so long as I followed them and everything was legal. That being said, my first pick is one that I inherited from the original team, and the original team did have some very solid Pokemon, but it was a little bit more on the passive side, and again, considering the 20-minute timer, I wanted to be a bit more kind of hasty. So, let's move on to the first one, and that is Garchomp. Garchomp is a classic, absolute classic. It's one of the strongest Pokemon, a Pokemon full of nostalgia and infamy, thanks to Cynthia in Gen 4. It's been a staple in competitive Pokemon ever since it's been introduced, and you can't really blame it for that solid typing and those stats. There's a good few sets, a good couple of standard sets that you can run with this. You've got the classic Swords Dance, just bruising team. You've got the Swords Dance plus Scale Shot, thanks to Art of Armor. So this is a current gen kind of set. You've got Scarf Jump. Scarf Jump's always a menace. No matter when it clicks a move, so long as there's not an immunity, you're always going to be picking up some good damage. So from early game, you can really start pressing the team. The other standard set is defensive Rocky Garchomp. So that could be leftovers or Rocky Helmet with Rough Skin. So you can really chip down physical attackers while setting up hazards, spreading toxic, supporting with Bordeaux or hitting with kind of special coverage. And on the special side, it's not too bad either. It's kind of average, but you can run a fully special or a mixed set depending on the situation. So all in all, this Pokemon is, it's a rough Pokemon to go up against. Let's face it, and hopefully I can utilize it properly. Our next pick is an Ultra Beast. Ooh, there we go. We've got ourselves Buzzword. Now Buzzword's a little bit more limited than Garchomp in its roles. It's got kind of 2 main roles. It's got physical attacker, like bulk up slash attacker, and you've got kind of that defensive pivot. And it's got plenty of healing options too. You've got Roost, you've got Leech Type, you've got Drain Punch, you've got Leftovers. A lot of things that you can do to keep this thing healthy and switching into every physical attack. Most physical attacks at least. Paired with the Rocky Helmet, you are going to be doing some residual chip damage as well, which is always nice. Not only that, but this thing getting a kind of like a surprise KO or finishing a Pokemon off could get a beast boost out of defense or attack for the most part. So this thing it's not too versatile. It's only got 2 special attacking moves, which are Snore and I think Hyper Beam perhaps. I can't quite remember. But that special attack stat is useless. Don't even look at them. Recently in Pokemon Showdown OU, the meta's kind of started shifting towards Scarf Buzzwole, which at level 50 in the Switch draft, which we will be running at level 50, the speed tiers are actually a lot kind of closer together, so Scarf Buzzwole is going to be quite viable as well. And after 1 or 2 attacks, 1 or 2 KOs, can easily snowball the team if it doesn't have a good switch in afterwards. So kind of getting rid of the counters are going to be imperative. So we've got a nice physically defensive core here so far. Our next Pokemon is going to be the Klefki. Now Klefki has got, oh, excuse me, Klefki has got, you know, one or two main jobs. You've got screens, you've got hazards, and you've got status. You know, very, very good at his job. Normally, I'm not a big fan of picking up Pokemon that aren't too versatile. But again, Klefki does his job so well, and with the combination of typings, Fairy and Steel, plus the Garchomp, I've already got that defensive core down. You know, it does have some secret and some not so secret hidden techs, but I'm looking to put in a bit more work with it besides just the standard set, at least in a couple of games. So I don't want to say too much about that. I'd rather surprise. You know, you probably see a thumbnail like Specs Klefki kind of, you know, wrecks a team or whatever, but that might not come to fruition given it's a little bit average. Yeah, there's not too much more to say about this besides the fact that I do have that Dragon Fairy Steel Core in 2 Pokemon. So move on to one of my favourite picks in Tentacle, and you might notice over here, you've got the the little Dynamax cloud over that number there. From tier 3, which this is, and below, we've got the potential to Dynamax any of them at any given time. So we don't have to designate them, but these are Pokemon from now that are able to Dynamax. So with that bearing in mind, that really did affect kind of my drafting strategy. Anyway, let's get back to the jelly. It was chosen because it's actually quite versatile. You know, it's got, you know, hazards, it's got rapid spin. You know, you've got scald burns, you've got toxic, perfectly accurate toxics, by the way, because it is because it is part poison, and poison types do have that 100% accuracy for toxic. Mostly I picked that because it's got that nice natural special defense stat. And looking at my previous team members, they do kind of lack that. You know, so Tentacle does take pretty much every special attack that isn't kind of psychic type. And obviously I do have Pokemon down below that do compensate for that. Its offensive stats are a little underwhelming. It's kind of average. It's got the same special attack as Klefki, which isn't amazing. But after a rapid spin, you know, with a life orb set, it could, you know, do a lot of damage with Sludge Bomb, Sludge Wave, Hydro Pumps, etc. So it's a little bit more versatile than you give it credit for, but it's a very solid, fast, defensive Pokemon, which is quite nice. Speed creep does mean 100 is still a little bit slow. I think the magic number is, I think 103, which is about Garchomp's. Oh, 102, 103 is about Garchomp's side, so that's roughly where you'd want to be. But yeah, Tentacle, one of my favourite picks. A big ol' HP stat off the Dynamax. It's got some good coverage for Dynamax as well, you know, setting up terrains and kind of debuffing the enemy, which is kind of something you definitely want from Dynamaxing Pokemon. My next Pokemon is one of my favourite kind of draft Pokemon, and that is a Jinx. Now Jinx has got a very solid typing. You've got that Ice, which is arguably the best offensive type in the game, and Psychic, which together makes really good coverage. Yeah, any Pokemon that switches into it is always going to be taking a bit of damage unless it's like a Blissey or something, and even then you've got the potential for Psyshock. If they've not prepped properly for it, you could always get away with a sub-nasty plot set. It does also have some decent support options. You've got Wish, you've got Screens, which obviously I've got Klefki for. But if I was to run Klefki as an offensive Pokemon, like kind of by surprise, I can always kind of get Jinx to fulfill that Screens role. Now 95 again is still just a little bit slow these days. If this was 1 or 2 gens ago, 95 is like a perfect speed stat. But with the abilities Oblivious and Dry Skin, Oblivious means that I can kind of get away with not being taunted. So I can set up Trick Room if I wanted to. Dry Skin just gives me a water immunity, which I don't have too much trouble with water, but it does allow me to switch into Scalds and the like. An easy way to counter this is obviously going up against that tiny defensive stat, so any priority attack will just destroy it. Yeah, Scarf is a classic set, and it is one that works very effectively, but it does have more than what I've said, and I do kind of want to keep that kind of secret as well. Experienced players would probably know what they are, but it's all good. I don't want to reveal my hands too easily. Next Pokemon we have, excuse me, is Talonflame. Now Talonflame is the second out of two Pokemon I kept from the previous team. You've got that solid flying and fire type, which defensively isn't the best, I can't lie, but it does allow me to switch into ground type attacks. The main appeal of this Pokemon is its Gale Wings ability, which despite being nerfed in Gen 7, I think it was. Was it nerfed in Gen 7? It was nerfed in Gen 7, alright. Meaning that you had to be at full health to have the priority boost from the ability. With the introduction of heavy duty boots, you're still able to cover that as well. So this thing makes a really good emergency check. So let's say, for example, the enemy team has Volcarona is up to plus 666. So long as you're at full health, you can just click Brave Bird and kind of stop their sweep in its tracks. So it will prevent a lot of over setup, but it's a good kind of stopgap for preventing their sweep, so long as I can take it. Its offensive stats aren't the best, but with that speed stat, I'm going to be outspeeding pretty much everything on their team if it's not, Jolteon, Gengar, etc. Now, the Flame Body ability is actually kind of underrated. I could run like a nice, like a Rocky Helmet or Leftover set with Roost, Defog. You've got Tailwind support, and of course you've got the strong Overheat or Flare bits. So it's really not that bad of a Pokemon. I think a lot of people look past it, but yeah, with that nice special defense stat as well, you can't really go wrong. And the next Pokemon, well, the next couple of Pokemon are among my favourites from Galar. So my next 3 Pokemon are Gen 8 Pokemon, and they are within my top 5. So we've got Thievel. Yeah, Thievel's a very interesting Pokemon. Looking at its stats, it's a little bit underwhelming, I can't lie. I really do wish it had like the slightly better stat distribution. It's actually got more Spadef than speed, only by a little bit. It doesn't really matter too much at level 50, but you'd wish it kind of just be a little bit stronger or a little bit faster, because it's not even that defensive. So at first glance, this Pokemon really isn't that good. But with its abilities, Unburden and Runaway, Unburden and Stakeout, Unburden's really good, especially at level 50, because once you've got your Unburden boost, you're outspeeding everything that's not boosted by a Scarf. And it will be boosting a lot of mid-tier Pokemon that I do have a Scarf. It's just one of those things. Now, I can set that up with a weakness policy under Dynamax, which gives me a massive boost to my attack. Or I could do like a self-set Dynamax with Grassy Terrain from Max Overgrowth. But really, my favourite thing about this Pokemon is the Stakeout ability. And well, if you don't know what it's gonna do, if you don't know what Stakeout does, then you should stake out my channel over the next couple of weeks. Hopefully you'll see it put in some work. But yeah, that being said, let's move on to my, I think, second, maybe third favourite Galar Pokemon. And that is, that is Gravelox. I absolutely love this thing's design. I love its niche. The only thing that I lament about this is it was introduced in Gen 8 when they removed Pursuit, because Octolock is such a cool attack. So it's a trapping move. It does make contact initially, so I think it's affected by Iron Barbs, etc. But it traps them in, and at the end of every turn, it debuffs both of their defenses, so defense and special defense. And after a couple of goes, that can really start racking up. So if I was to have this as a pure support kind of Pokemon, I can have it defensive, max HP, Octolock, protect, dive, and then just to kind of like pick them off is Sucker Punch. That's one set that I've run several times in this thing. I've only run this thing once before in draft, and that was in a national dex meta, so we did have Pursuit, and it really was putting in the work. But here I think it's going to be a bit more self-sufficient with Bulk Up. It's got pretty decent offensive stats there. Ironically, given its 2 abilities, Limber and Technician, I think Limber is going to be a lot more useful, because Technician is only really going to be boosting Power Up Punch and Rock Smash, and maybe 1 or 2 special attacks if I decide to go a bit mixed. But to be honest, yeah, Limber not being paralyzed, not being T-waved by opposing Sableyes and whatnot, it's not going to matter so much. It's not quite as oppressive as Buzzword. Obviously, we do have that beast in the back. Oh, excuse me. But Gravelox really does have its own niches. So I definitely think you should look out for this. It won't be a kill leader or the most useful one on my team by any shot. but it's definitely something that I wanted to use for a while. It's actually got some good coverage as well, like Ice Punch. I think it gets Thunder Punch as well. But under Dynamax, you've got some good options. Probably my fourth favorite Galar Pokemon is Pico, and we've got just that. It's got some good, albeit slightly weak coverage options. You've got like Seed Bomb, for example, which is kind of strong. You've got Fire Fang. So you've got a couple of terrain boosting moves. You've got that signature attack Aura Wheel, which is a very strong physical electric attack, and that does kind of mitigate its slightly a bit too low speed stat. But Morpiko's ability, obviously, Hunger Switch allows its main attack to be either electric or dark type, depending on the turn. Now that's something that the opponent can play around with switching in, but that's something that you can also kind of take advantage of. Sorry about that, my kids were waking up. But yeah, this is a really cool Pokemon. It's got some good supporting options as well. You've got Rapid Spin, so again, another thing to boost its speed. You can have a partial support set with Rapid Spin and then just 3 attacks. But you've got Rapid Spin, you've got Fake Out, so you've got Fake Out support, you've got a bit of priority there. You've got Parting Shot, which I think Thievel's also got. So between the two of them, I can always kind of pivot around and get something into setup. But I think the main thing for this is going to be kind of a good mixed attacker at any given point. So I think this is going to be a good stock Pokemon, and so long as you've got an electric type Pokemon, they're always going to have to bring their ground type if they have one. And in a draft league, you really should have a ground and at least a dark type. Moving on to our final pick, Katana. Now you might be a bit surprised to see that after the last 3 Pokemon, but in this draft you've got what's called a free slot. So at the end of the draft, everyone was able to take 1 more Pokemon that wasn't drafted from any tier. And obviously that didn't really apply to me, but I was still able to choose that extra Pokemon. So I decided to go for Katana. That would be to round out my kind of fire, water, grass core. And obviously my Dragon Fairy Steel is a lot more defensive. So I thought I'd go for something offensive on that side. And between the 3 of them, you've got amazing offensive presence. The Katana itself, it doesn't need any explanation. It's probably got the highest of any one stat on my team at 181, which is absolutely wild. You've got the classic Scarf Katana. Banded Katana is a menace. You can even run a Swords Dance Tailwind set. You can also just go 4 attacks AV, which really isn't going to do much. But depending on the right, it could be good for the right team. I've even ran in the past defensive sets with Iron Defense, Synthesis, and just chipped them away that way, because it does have a good defensive stat. But it's not something that I'd expect, at least because I do have Buzzword, for example. I did trade off a little bit there at the end, my apologies for that. But I was doing all this live, and I had a lot of issues with my recordings. So I finally got it all working again, and now I don't have any energy. But the draft starts on, I think 2 days. I think it starts on Monday, coming up. So, if you're watching this, support Naruhata Hoppers. Excuse me. Yeah, put in the comments below who you think my kill leader would be and who you think will be the MVP of the draft. I'm predicting Talonflame's going to be MVP, and Thievel's going to be the most interesting. I think in terms of kill leader, it's going to be Katana or Garchomp. They're the very clear kind of offensive powerhouses of the team. But don't sleep on Buzzword either. Yeah, that being said, thank you for watching. Yeah, this is my first recap, so it was a little bit sketch. I do apologise for that. But going forward, I'll get some more experience, especially with the video making thing. So yeah, put your predictions down below, and have a good day.